Good afternoon. Blessings to you all. I hope that you had well, for those of you who live in the U.S., a good 4th of July, and that it was safe and nobody blew their hands off or any other silly thing that we have a tendency to do when we play with small explosives. And though it did sound like a war zone in my neighborhood, well, ever since Friday, honestly. And I'm glad I don't have a dog who's afraid of fireworks, because holy cow, the poor pup would have been in terror for like 5 days straight. But anyhow, we are back into Proverbs today. We're going to be picking up at 11. Actually, we're going to be picking up at, I don't know why I printed that out. 11:27 is where we're going to be picking up. But I think, oh, I may have made a mistake in the numbers that I put up on the subtitle here. But anyhow, we'll be picking up with that. Just a little bit of bookkeeping before we jump into the Bible study. Next week, I am going to be out of town for a pastor's conference. Looking forward to this. I'm going to be participating in the doxology program, which is a continuing education opportunity for pastors that not only helps pastors refine their pastoral abilities, but they also provide, in the realm of pastoral care, they also provide pastoral care for the pastors. So it's going to be a very, I think it's going to be a very good experience, and probably very beneficial for the ministry that I've been entrusted with here. But anyhow, that means next Wednesday there's not going to be a Bible study, as it's going to be kind of hard for me to do when I'm in Springfield. At a resort where it could be that I have very limited, not resort, a retreat, excuse me, because we're this is going to be fun. It's a bunch of LCMS Lutherans who are going to be borrowing a facility from, I think, the Franciscan Order of the Catholic Church. There may be a minor earthquake next week. But anyhow, let's get into our Bible study. And blessed Lord, you have given to us your wisdom, so that we may know the truth and be set free in it. We ask that you would open our hearts and our minds, and thus fill us with this freeing truth. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. All right, so here we go. I'm going to figure out where we are at. Yeah. Yep, I got the wrong numbers. It should be 11:23, not 27. I'll have to fix that probably later on. Okay. Let me do the screen share, Betty. All right. That button. That's the button I want. And I want that. And there we go. Now everybody can see these wonderful slides. Oh, I mock myself. Sometimes it's the only way to survive, it seems. So anyhow, here we go. Proverbs 11:23 is our starting point. The desire of the righteous ends only in good, the expectation of the wicked in wrath. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give, and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered. The people curse him who holds back grain, but a blessing is on the head of him who sells it. This is again a continuation of the path of righteousness that we were covering in the previous two sections, excuse me. So we have this description of how the righteous is going to end and how the wicked is going to end. So the desire of the righteous ends only in good, where the expectation of the wicked ends in wrath. And speaking in an eschatological fashion, this is, which is where I think ultimately this will be um, realized. This is most certainly true, because the expectation of the wicked, it will end in wrath. Because I mean, that's what's going to happen. They're going to face the wrath of God. And not a pretty sight, because, yeah, he said it isn't. And at the same time, the desire of the righteous ends only in good. But the desire of the righteous, who we can say is Jesus, because he is the righteous one, does end in good, because it ends in the salvation of sinners. He delivers dead people into life. That is a good ending. Whereas the expectations of the wicked ends in death. You want a great example of that? Look at Judas. Judas acted in the expectations of the wicked. He was enriching himself off the money purse that was supposed to be used to help the poor, and he was desiring more wealth, hence the selling off of Jesus to the authorities. And how did he end up? He hung himself, which is to some extent an expression of wrath. Though I do tend to, and generally with suicide, side with where Luther goes, where suicide is the last great deception of Satan, where he convinces us that there is no hope.
That's the last greatest deception of suicide. You say, I can deception.
Mm-hmm.
But it's suicide is also one of the biggest outcries for help.
Yeah, the mental health professionals will say that suicide is one of the greatest outcries for help. I would qualify that. Suicide attempts can be an outcry for help. Some people actually don't want help, so I won't say that all suicides are a cry for help. In fact, there was actually this is a little sidebar, and I'll get right back to the proverb here quickly. And to an extent, there are indications. I will stress that indications. These are not foolproof proof of something. But there are ways that tend to indicate the person was either crying for help or actually really did want to kill themselves. And I'm not going to go into those because honestly, you guys nobody needs to know how to off themselves. I know this because I've taken classes in crisis counseling. I've also been a medical first responder. So we were made aware of these things. And to be quite frank, knowing these things is helpful, but honestly, I wish I did. But anyhow, getting back to our study at hand, we can also say that there is a temporal realization of the desire of the righteous ending in good and the expectation of the wicked ending in wrath. Because what is righteousness? But the act of being a blessing to your neighbor. I know I've covered this recently in sermons here at Our Savior, but just for those of you who aren't, here on Sundays, because maybe you go to another church, Lord willing, and I hope that's the truth. Really, the ultimate goal of following the Ten Commandments isn't so much as it is to limit what we're doing and to point us in a good direction, but it is to be a blessing to our neighbor. Because when you get right down to it, I mean, that's what they all will end up coming down to, including the first three, which deal with our behavior towards and with God. And I say this because, well, everything flows out of those, the first commandment and into and so on and so forth. But if you're trusting in God for all good things, that necessarily is going to say you're not going to be looking to steal your neighbor's stuff. You're not going to be coveting your neighbor's stuff because you know that the Lord will provide you with that which you need, that He will give you your daily bread. But that said, we can look at particularly 4 through 10, and I'm going by the Lutheran numbering if you want to check those out. I would highly encourage you to either go to bookofconcord.org, which has the small catechism, or you could go to, I wish I could remember the CPH website for the small catechism. They got a really nice small catechism website, CPH does. Very mobile friendly and all that kind of good stuff. You can check that out if you aren't familiar with the way that Lutherans number the 10 Commandments, which is something I would suggest doing because there are 2 major ways of numbering the 10 Commandments within the United States. One is the more Eastern tradition, which the Reformed churches tend to use, and then there is the more Western tradition, which the Roman Catholics and the Lutherans tend to use. There might be a few other Reformation churches that also use it, but to be honest, I haven't looked that closely. Actually, I have looked, but I can't remember the Wikipedia page because there's actually like 10 different traditions for numbering the 10 Commandments. But there's 2 major ones that you'll find in the U.S. One that combines essentially the first one that splits out the first commandment, and one that splits out the 9th and 10th commandment. I did say that differently on purpose because there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with the first commandment that, at least in the Lutheran tradition, is just kind of combined within what we have in the first commandment, and then they split it out. You may not see it at first sight, but that's because, well, we kept the first commandment brief and then put the explanation a little bit longer. Luther's larger catechism explanation of the first commandment's first rate. I check it out. Anyhow, but ultimately, when we are following the 10 Commandments, we are following the path of righteousness. We are going to be a blessing to the people around us, because we're going to, as Luther will point out within his explanations of the commandments, we will be helping our neighbor in his every physical need. We will be helping him to preserve what he has. We'll actually be helping him to make it better. That will be encouraging those who have commitments to him to remain in those commitments and things of that nature, which should ideally be a blessing. I realize that there are the niggling effects of sin, and we're going to hit that in a bit, but following the 10 Commandments is going to result in blessing, or at least should. The reason it doesn't is because, well, that whole thing is sin. But we'll get back to that. Now, we go on here, and because one gives freely, grows all the richer, another withholds what he should give, and only suffers want. And honestly, this largely is going to boil down to don't be Scrooge. Don't be Scrooge from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Maybe you're more familiar with the Disney-fied version. Don't be Scrooge McDuck. Though I will say Scrooge McDuck of DuckTales is different from Scrooge McDuck of A Christmas Carol. I can't believe I'm saying this. In a sense, you could see Scrooge McDuck of DuckTales is to be the redeemed Scrooge McDuck. And yes, he still loves his money. He's still a penny pincher, but he is generous still. But you don't want to be the miser. You don't want to be that Scrooge who just desires to hoard money to themselves, and thus does not give to those who are in need. I really, from a Christian perspective, from the perspective of Proverbs that we're seeing here, the riches that we are given for an intended use, and it's not to enrich us, but to benefit our neighbors. Again, the way of righteousness is going to be a blessing. So if we have been blessed with much, we take that much that we've been blessed with to bless others. And so we're essentially called to mirror the generosity of God, which makes sense because we're supposed to be in his image anyways. And a part of what happens in our redemption is the restoration of that image that he created us in. And a part of that is going to be that generosity and caring for the creation that he created. We are to be those stewards. And I know within the context of Genesis, it was to be a steward of the garden that Adam was called to do. That, boy, did I phrase that bad. Adam was called to steward and caretake the garden. But it does give it also has the statement of have dominion over all living creatures. We are to be a caretaker. And that can be extended out. We are to be a caretaker of our brothers and sisters, of our neighbors, because that is a mirror that is in the image of God. He is that caretaker. So going back to Cain's question, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer is yes, you are. Is your brother going to like it? No. But anyhow, but the answer is we're to mirror that generosity of God. And that's what these Proverbs are pointing out. So moving on to 27 to 31. Whoever diligently seeks good seeks favor, but evil comes to him who searches for it. Whoever trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like a green leaf. Whoever troubles his own household will inherit the wind. The fool will be a servant to the wise of heart. And the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and whoever captures souls is wise. If the righteous is repaid on earth, how much more the wicked and the sinner? Okay, so let's begin with a bit of an interesting bit here with this whole searching thing. The interesting thing is the one doing good already has favor, but he continues to seek favor. And on the other hand, the one seeking evil finds evil already at hand because they already have evil. And that's one of the, it's almost kind of a snickering in your hands here. And whoever's he has evil is already evil because he doesn't have to search where it's there. But whoever diligently seeks good seeks favor. And the reason one of the reasons I would say we seek in favor already has favor is because, well, those who are wise within the context of Proverbs are already those who are saved. They already have that favor and will very much desire more of it because they recognize it for the good that it is.
Go back to the more we give, really, the more God gives us.
There is the expectation of those who have been given much are expected to give much. And there is very much a truism to that. Those who have been forgiven much have a corresponding level of gratefulness, and the gratefulness should play out as in giving more. But yeah, that's kind of where this passage is going. I mean, those who have been given favor are going to seek more favor, and that means that they're going to be more of a blessing. And those who search for evil, well, they don't have to search too hard because, well, evil's there and is always ready and willing. Honestly, evil comes to you even when you're not looking for it. I'll be honest, I'm getting kind of frustrated with what's going on with Instagram and the spam bots who keep trying to follow me. I turned up my settings because it was really creepy when they started liking pictures of my kids. Yeah, ew, no. And it just seeks you out. And these things are not, ew. They're definitely peddling unrighteousness. They make that, well, plain and make it to the eye to see. Ugh, drives me nuts. Man, that's a reason why my kids are not getting smartphones. Good Lord. But anyhow, moving on. So evil's always at hand. And anyhow, let's move forward. Because I really do want to get to chapter 12. Now I'm looking at my time. But anyhow, one of the things I wanted to point out is, in particular, this passage, whoever trusts in his righteousness, oops, just highlighted the wrong verses here. What? Yeah, well, actually, it was whoever trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like a green leaf. That really reflects the parable of the rich man that you can find in Luke 12:16-21. For those of you who are not familiar with it, the Cliff Note version is a rich man has huge harvest, thinks he has no place to store his stuff, so he'll build new barns, and then he will eat, drink, and be merry. And guess what happens? He dies. And it ain't pretty. So that parallels what we have here. Whoever trusts in his riches will fall. The guy was trusting in his riches. He fell. And honestly, you can't take it with you. There's not a whole lot of point in keeping it around. So don't be Scrooge. Now, moving forward, 29 and 32 go together as almost as the parallel thought here. Whoever troubles his own household will inherit the wind, and the fool will be the servant to the wise of heart. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and whoever captures souls is wise. Yeah, whoever troubles his own household will inherit the wind. Yeah, there's lots of ways that can come true. Get disowned, have family just leave you, abandon you, all sorts of things. You can even squander what would be your household inheritance. All sorts of different ways. But ultimately, one of the things we need to understand is that whoever troubles his own household will inherit the wind is a statement condemning those who trouble the household of God. Because if you trouble the household of God, guess what you're not going to inherit? That would be the kingdom of heaven. That means you have nothing with which to hold on to. That is bad. That is not good. And then we have the fruit of the righteous is the tree of life. We have a reference to the Garden of Eden, and also to the end, the final chapters of Revelation, because the final chapters of Revelation point out that one of the things that we will dwell with is the tree of life. So life will be what we know. And the fruit of the righteous, going back to the blessing of the neighbor, that is a picture of what we receive from the tree of life, because being blessing to the neighbor is going to give them life. So it is still meant, God still provides life, even though we've been cut off from the tree of life. Life is still provided. All right, and then we get to the righteous is repaid on earth, how much more the wicked in the sinner. That is one that I tend to look at a little bit more eschatologically, simply because of how the world tends to react to the righteous and sin. We don't always get to see that plainly. And it's not that it doesn't happen, but it is also something that we just don't get to see plainly frequently. Occasionally you can see some glimpses of it, like the person who's very generous and giving, but they never have to worry about making ends meet and things like that. But for the most part, this is something we'll see more in an eschatological fashion than in a now fashion. And I know you're going, but it says on the earth. Remember, within the Christian understanding of eschatology, we'll be on the earth. And in fact, the righteous will remain on the earth, and the wicked will be washed away. So even eschatologically, I mean, it's quite literal in its meaning here, and that we will be repaid on earth. So, but anyhow, I'm out of time. So we'll wrap up. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them, and I will do my best to answer them. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, all those wonderful things, and also don't forget that I won't be on next week. And with that, blessings to you all.
You know, when you started, we did forget to cover that one question because we didn't go over